I did. Look at what we've done. We have the greatest economy in the world. We have the greatest investment in a country in history by many times. We were a dead country, and now we're great.
And now on Newsline, President Trump back in Washington after a very successful trip to Davos, Switzerland. He is now planning to travel across the United States to take his message about the economy and the accomplishments directly to the voters ahead of the midterms. In Minnesota, protesters today staging an economic blackout. It's their latest tactic to demonstrate against ICE actions in the city. And the big storm is going to impact about 230 million Americans. We have more on the major forecast for you today. Hi, everybody. It is noon on the East Coast. Welcome into Newsline. I'm Bianca De La Garza. Our top story right now, it is charges in Minnesota and potentially more. I'm pleased to bring in right now Harmeet Dhillon, Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights at the U.S. Department of Justice. Of course, before joining the administration and the DOJ, Harmeet had founded the Dhillon Law Group, a legal practice with offices in California, New Jersey, Florida, and also the Center for American Liberty, a nonprofit organization dedicated to civil liberties, legal claims. Harmeet, always a pleasure to have you. I want to get right into what these charges are that we saw from the DOJ. We had 3 people arrested. Not Don Lemon, though. He has still come out, though, to say that he is the one who needs an apology. This after seeing 3 people taken in for the church protest at the House of Worship. Here he is.
Look, I stand proud and I stand tall. This is not a victory lap for me because it's not over. They're going to try again and they're going to try again. And guess what? Here I am. Keep trying. That's not going to stop me from being a journalist. You're not going to diminish my voice. Go ahead, make me into the new Jimmy Kimmel if you want. None of this is about justice. This is about power, and it's about people who are incompetent.
All right, just wanted our viewers to hear that and get your reaction. He has hired well-known, prominent defense attorney Abbe Lowell, who once, of course, represented Hunter Biden, who says basically that this was constitutionally protected activity as a journalist. What's your take on that, Harmeet?
Well, Abbe Lowell can posture all he wants, but the magistrate didn't give that reason or any other reason, and Abbe Lowell presented no arguments to the court because when you go in front of a magistrate with these types of charges, it's not known to the people who are being charged in advance. That's the beginning of the process to get an arrest warrant. And so we made a presentation to the magistrate judge. 2 of my prosecutors worked tirelessly from Sunday night until presenting on Tuesday with the U.S. Attorney's Office, and the Attorney General was right there on the scene as well. And the magistrate judge, who is married to someone who works for Attorney General Keith Ellison, who has had a lot to say about ICE and a lot to say about our FACE Act theory, declined to give us all that we were asking for. So that's just part of the process. There are many other steps in this process, and there are other ways to pursue charges. I personally think this magistrate judge abdicated his duty. He should have looked more carefully at the evidence. Unfortunately, a lot of these judicial officers, and he's an inferior judicial officer, he's not an Article III judge, are unfamiliar with the FACE Act's protection of houses of worship because prior administrations have never pursued it. Yeah.
When you say the judge has a connection to someone in Keith Ellison Attorney General's office, are they married? They're
married.
What's the relationship
They're
there?
married. So he's married to his wife, Caitlin. Caitlin has reposted and liked Keith Ellison's trashy comments about ICE and about the state of Minnesota suing the United States to enjoin our ICE officers from being able to do their jobs, putting them in danger. We've won a round in that lawsuit at the Department of Justice. The 8th Circuit has put an administrative stay on the lower court's ruling and allowed the ICE officers to go about their business. But on top of that, after this incident occurred on Sunday, Keith Ellison went out there and openly said that the FACE Act does not apply to attacks on houses of worship. It only protects abortion clinics. This is either illiterate or deliberately deceptive. And
maybe both.
Yeah. Maybe both. But, the thing is, when you're either a prosecutor like I am or you are a judge, you have to recuse yourself to avoid not only actual bias, but also the appearance of impropriety. There is definitely the appearance of impropriety here when a magistrate refuses to honor those requirements. And so here we are, but we are just at the beginning of this process. I intend to identify and find every single person in that mob that interrupted that church service in that house of God and bring them to justice. And that includes so-called journalists who participated in harassing Americans at worship.
You know, we get the message very clearly. 3 of them were arrested. One of them was William Kelly, and he had made some comments pretty indignant. He doesn't have the security blanket of claiming journalism, which you say obviously is not one that's applicable here. But let me just play this because other people may be looking at this as a cue to where they can go. Here he is with his comments after storming the church and knowing he was on notice.
They're using their political influence to attack people that disagree with them. There's no base for these charges. I did not block them from, their service. They welcomed us in. They never asked us to leave. The police never came in and removed us. So we didn't stop their service.
Your reaction to that comment, Harmeet, as you say, you will bring every single person in that church to face charges.
Well, who are you going to believe, this crazy guy or your lying eyes? And the video that Don Lemon provided while he was participating in this and interrupting and getting in the face of not only the pastor, who was very calm, but also numerous parishioners, tells the truth, which is they were repeatedly asked to leave. Of course, the police aren't going to come in there. The police are scared and not doing their jobs in Minneapolis and St. Paul right now. That's unfortunate. I don't blame them, given the mobs that have run wild there and their failed political leadership that's enabling these attacks on law enforcement. But it's going to be up for a jury, not a magistrate. The threshold to get a arrest warrant is actually quite low, and we feel it is amply met in this case for every single person who invaded this worship service. I don't agree with the magistrate's decisions here, but he doesn't have the last word.
Ultimately, it will be the next move, of course, that you say is in progress, and we hope to follow it when you come back and give us an update. Harmeet Dhillon, always a pleasure to have you. Thank you for stopping by this Friday afternoon with the latest.
Thanks for having us.